911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call med control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. Okay, today's guest lived a story most of us only see in movies and paid for it in blood, trust, and identity. Jay Dobyns spent 27 years with the ATF. He infiltrated the Hells Angels for 2 years, becoming the first agent in history to live as one of them. What he saw, what he lost, and what it did to his mind, that's what we're diving into today. Jay, thanks for being here. For every responder listening, what do you want them to take away from this story?
You know what? Thank you, Chris, for having me, and welcome to your audience. And I think that, we all want to leave a legacy. We all leave a legacy. Whether it's the legacy we want or not, is in our hands. For me, there was a point in time where I thought my legacy was based on success or accomplishment or notoriety. And those aren't the right questions to ask ourselves. Our legacy, did we leave where we were at? Did we leave it better than we found it? Uh, did we improve someone's life for having known us? Did we live our life with effort and energy and enthusiasm as an example? Did we put a smile on someone's face? Do you put a smile on someone's face when you see them? Does your life honor God? Those are, if you can answer yes to those questions, that's the legacy you want to leave.
That's powerful right there, and I agree 100%. That's very admirable thinking as well. And if an ATF agent that's done all the things that you've done are able to live that way, all of us can. You know,
Well, I landed on that position, but like not by design. Like we learn humility by being humiliated. Like I landed on that theory of like what I wanted my legacy to be and how that changed over time by getting my ass kicked.
Gotcha. So you spent 27 years with the ATF and 2 of those years living inside the Hells Angels. What made you say yes to that assignment?
Well, it was I had 15 years of undercover experience when that opportunity was presented to me. I bought guns, bought drugs, bought bombs, infiltrated home invasion crews, played a hitman on murder for hire cases.
Damn.
So when that opportunity came, I wasn't cold to it. I had, like I said earlier, I had 15 years of undercover experience that I thought had prepared me for it. I thought I was ready. I really wasn't. I wasn't completely aware of what I was getting myself into, but it was the next challenge, and I think we're all looking for that, not just like in our law enforcement careers, in life. Like we should always be looking for the next challenge.
Yes, sir. Always look for bigger, better things. Always try to improve yourself in any way you can. So when did it hit you that this wasn't just a job anymore, that it was survival?
Well, that case, as well organized and managed as it was still organized chaos. Every day it was organized chaos, and every day was a sugar high. Like you'd accomplish something, and you'd get the buzz off that accomplishment, but it didn't last because now there was a new challenge, um, multiple through the day, hundreds and thousands throughout the course of the case. Um, when did it hit me that that the damage had been done? I think what was most impactful was the collateral damage that case put on my family. I was prepared, or at least as prepared as I could be for what was coming to me. But the damage that case, and I can't blame it on the case, the damage that I put on my family, the collateral damage that they became for my chasing my professional dreams selfishly, that was the painful part.
I bet. And correct me if I'm wrong, but most undercover ops, you live a certain way, you have to think a certain way, and you have to act a certain way. A lot of the times when y'all do that, you can't properly communicate with your family. You can't talk like you normally do because you have to stay in that character, correct?
Yeah, yes, I agree with that, but like I took that to an extreme. Um, my regret in now looking at it in hindsight from that 30,000 foot view is that what I did for a living stopped being that and started becoming who I was. I lived that undercover role for so long that it started becoming who I was, and then that affected the people around me and the people in my life and the people that my family and my friends. And when that happens, like that's dangerous, man. You don't want to go there. You don't want to let that lifestyle, that undercover lifestyle, you don't want that to saturate your life like so deeply that I don't even know how to put it. I'll say this: the people that loved me the most, the people that cared about me and that were the most loyal to me, were the ones that I treated the worst because I took them for granted. And I made selfish decisions throughout my career. I made decisions for me, about my career. And I didn't consider like what those decisions, how they impacted those people that loved me and my family and the people that cared about me and the people that were loyal to me. And I regret that. I've had achievements that I'm proud of, but I've also made mistakes and had humiliations that I'm ashamed of.
Of course, as you should. So back to undercover, what's one moment from deep undercover that still replays in your head?
Oh man, there's thousands of them. You're living a fictitious role. You're playing a fictitious character, and that deception and being successful with that deception, like for me, it became like my heroin. I became addicted to that lie, um, and I was it just became who I was. And that's not how God builds us, but that's what I had let myself become.
Gotcha.
And behind that, but behind the selfishness of that, like I said earlier, man, I put a lot of battle damage on my family and my friends.
Right. So after living 2 years under a false name, how did you relearn who Jay Dobyns actually was?
I think ultimately we are who we are. We can fake it for a while, um, but the tiger doesn't change its stripes. We are who we are. Hopefully, I came back to something that's more centered and more balanced, more reasonable. Um, like I one of the one of the errors that I allowed into my life is that, like I said, I became addicted to that lifestyle,
Right.
and that's just that's like I struggled to get out of role. I had played that role not just for for the 2 years with the Hells Angels, for the 15 years leading up to that.
Right.
Um,
You were undercover 15 years. That's a very lengthy amount of time. I don't know what the average time for undercover is, but that's a good amount of time.
well, and so in this process, like when I got sucked into the law enforcement lifestyle, like I got sucked into it believing like the glamour and sexiness that is shown to us like through Hollywood and through television. And that's what intrigued me. The reality is that like it's a nasty, dirty, bloody, vomit-covered scab of a life. You're dealing with society's the worst of the worst. But when I realized that I had fallen for the hoax, like I still loved it. I felt like I had a purpose. I felt like I stood for something. Um, and I continued behind that. I hid behind that.
Right. So when you were undercover, did you ever catch yourself preferring that world to the real world because at least you understood the rules better?
Um, More often than I would like to admit.
Gotcha.
But when I was at home and when I was with my family and when I was not being operational, I felt like I was missing opportunities to advance the investigation. I wanted to be out smoking and joking with gangsters more than I wanted to be with my family, with my wife and my kids. And that's like maybe my biggest regret, my biggest flaw, my biggest mistake was that my priorities got flipped upside down. And there's no one to blame for that. Like, I don't have anybody to point a finger at that. No one held a gun to my head and said, you're going to go work this investigation or these types of investigations. No one forced me to. No one bent my arm behind my back. I did it voluntarily, willingly, enthusiastically.
Damn. So is that when you realized that the job wasn't just a physical job, it was psychological on yourself as well?
Well, I realized it too late. I had already created a lot of battle damage, in my life that, now years later, I'm still working to repair. I'm still trying to recover from. Like I feel like I have a better base now. Like I have a better understanding of where my flaws were. Like for me, wisdom is always something that came to me right after I needed it. I got smart about things like a second too late.
Gotcha.
And so, um, you know, it was a big, everything about me was a big illusion. Everything was a hoax. I was a salesman and my product was me. And I was constantly selling this false persona.
I gotcha. So when your cover was blown, you expected danger from the criminals, of course, but not from your own agency. What did that betrayal do to you?
Well, I need to reset that just a little bit.
Okay.
The conflict I had with ATF was not the universe of ATF. I never lost my love for my agency or for the men and women who have their boots on the ground, who every day are out there trying to do the right thing.
Right.
I ran into a perfect storm of corrupt criminal supervision. It was a very, very small element of my agency that turned on me. But when it did, it caused me to question everything that I believed I stood for. I was like, this isn't who we are. This isn't what we do. And so like it reset my thinking. Like I said, it caused me to challenge and lose belief in the things that I had spent my entire adult professional life believing.
Damn. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. So you've talked about the firebombing of your home and your family being threatened. How did you protect the people you love when the system that trained you stepped back?
How did I protect them? I don't know if I did a very good job of that, to be honest with you. My wife and my kids became victims of the threats that they were being threatened. Like I said, my house was burned to the ground. So to ask the question, how did I protect them? Like if that was my job to protect them, I failed in protecting them. I exposed them, and they became collateral damage in what I had done professionally, and they didn't sign on for that. Like I did, I signed on for it. They didn't.
And I'm sure that took a great deal of mental anguish on you as well. After all of that, that probably made you second guess a lot of your choices and second guess a lot of, like you were saying, your personal decisions.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my personal life. Like during that undercover phase, I was not a good husband. I was not a good father. I was not a good friend. I was too consumed with what I was doing. Even when I was physically present, like I wasn't emotionally or intellectually present. My brain was someplace else, and I was cheating those people that I was physically present with. Um, and I've said this many times. I've made a million mistakes in my life. I've done a million things wrong. I've got things I'm humiliated and ashamed by. But between God and my wife and my kids and my friends, they've given me a million and one second chances to try to recover from that and try to repair it. And I try to repair that every day. And so, like when I'm speaking, like today with you, uh, part of the recovery from that, part of the repair from that is to like own my mistakes. Like don't lay blame. Don't make excuses. Like try to fix it. Try to do better. Try to be better.
That's amazing. It sounds like you've come very far from when you got started in this as well, because you do realize that you are accepting it and you are rebuilding it, as you said. That's amazing. A lot of people don't have the mental ability to do that when they come back from that. The the things that you're doing with your family now is amazing. You're trying to rebuild what was broken, and you're there now. I know it sucks to say it this way, but you're there now.
Well, I think part of that recovery is like just like owning my failures, like making them personal, not looking for someone to point a finger at. When I was operational and still today, I tried to live behind Psalm 23:4. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. When I was out on the streets, that was my mentality, but it's still it's translated now like into my personal life and my family life. Um, like yeah, I did things that I regret, but I'm not going to be fearful about it. I'm going to address it and be transparent about it and be open and be honest. My story is not a hero story. Man, I'm nobody's knight in shining armor. I did the best I could every day. I'm very much a common man who was placed in some uncommon situations. I did the best I could. There's days when I succeeded. There's days when I failed. Just like most people out there in the world.
And that's
I think there's a few extraordinary people who get it right all the time, and they do the right thing and they say the right thing all the time. Like I wish I was that person. I wasn't. I wasn't good enough.
and I love how you broke that down, and that's I'm trying to find the word. It's very heartfelt that you said it that way as well. Because of, as you said it, you are a regular person. There is no such thing as superheroes. There really isn't. And to know what you've lived through, and what you came back home to, and now you're rebuilding, that's the biggest thing. I myself, I might be wrong in my thinking on here, but I don't think that us as responders are the heroes. I think the families that we come back to are the heroes. They deal with us day in, day out with our bullshit and our attitudes that they don't deserve and they didn't ask for, but they stand by us. Like you said earlier, they've given us a million chances every time. And that to me are the superheroes compared to us. I mean, mentally that may be wrong, but that's how I think anyway.
Well, Chris, I think you hit it on the head. Is that, like I said, my story is not a hero story. But there's heroes in it. I know what a hero looks like.
Right.
I've walked beside some heroes. I've rubbed shoulders with some heroes. I know who they are and how they operate. My story has heroes. The heroes of my story are my wife and my kids.
Exactly.
But like for your audience, like the men and women out there, like in our law enforcement community, they have an alarm clock that goes off every day at different times, and they put their feet on the ground and they pour their kids a bowl of Cheerios and they have a cup of coffee with their wife, and they ultimately kiss their families goodbye with no guarantee that they're ever going to see their wife or their husband or their kids again. And they go out knowing that to protect other people's families so that they can see their loved ones. And they go out and they do it willingly and with enthusiasm, knowing that at least an element of society is against them. And they're going to be videotaped, and they're going to be ambushed, and they're going to be attacked, and they're going to be criticized. And they still go. Those are the heroes. Those are the heroes in our world. Those men and women out there in law enforcement, when everything's stacked against them, and knowing that the odds are not in their favor, they still go. Because, like, as we hunt violence, violence is hunting us. All you got to do is turn on the TV, and we see it, and we read about it, and we hear it every day. And if you're not, on our job, if you're not prepared to encounter violence, if you're not physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually ready to deal with violence, and then when it is in your face, to be ready to use an equal or greater amount of violence that you need to contain that situation, man, it's probably a good day to look at something else to do, because it's there. It's coming for you. As you're chasing it, it's chasing you.
Very well said. And even on the ambulance, we see the same thing. It's getting sadder and sadder every day that I look back. Seeing from when I got started to now, it's even on the ambulance now we have to wear body armor. It's there should not be a reason for firefighters and EMS to have to wear armor.
Dude, when you see firemen being set up and being ambushed, like, who doesn't love a fireman? Like, the fire element of the first responder community is only coming to help. They're only there to rescue you from a bad situation. They're only there, how do any of us not love a fireman who's made it his career, his profession, to do nothing but sacrifice himself to help you?
Right. And as you said, I mean, same thing with law enforcement. There are a few bad apples, and that does ruin it for a lot. But no one goes into law enforcement thinking that they're going to make someone else's life worse. They go into law enforcement to try to help. They go into law enforcement to want to help. And that's behind all first responders, in my opinion. That's fire, that's EMS, police, all of it.
Well, when you talk about our first responder community and the law enforcement community, and they're the bad apples, to use your term, the bad apples that are there. For every one of those stories that we hear, there's 100,000 stories that exact same day that we don't hear about. That situations were de-escalated, that lives were saved, that good was preserved. Like, we don't hear about those. We don't celebrate those stories. We only focus on the failures and the mistakes, and that's a disservice to that community.
Very true. And our media is the worst on that. They don't want to promote the good. They only want to promote the bad. And when they do, they get ratings. If they promote good, their ratings go down, so they don't give a shit. But in the real world, we all should want to see the good things. We all should want to help each other as humankind. We are all humans. There's no reason to hate one another at all. The bullshit that goes on with people hating cops and all that, it's fucking ridiculous. It should never have started, in my opinion.
Well, and I do believe that is a vocal minority of our society. I think there is a quieter majority of the world that does appreciate what our first responders do, that does want our first responders available and being a part of their life. Um, I've gone into communities and the probably the most demonstrative of this statement is that I responded to the Rodney King riots, the LA riots. Like after the officers that had assaulted Rodney King were acquitted, like South Central LA became a war zone. It was burning down, and it was just like rampant, uncontrolled chaos, violence, right? And so the call came like, hey man, we need help, and I became part of that, responded to that. So we were working in these communities that there was obviously like a resistance to us that didn't want us there, that hated us. But the majority of that community were good and innocent people who needed someone to help keep them safe. They did want us there. There's people in some of these communities that we respond to that are trapped there. They're trapped either economically, they can't escape. Maybe their families have spent generations there. They're not going anywhere. Like they want to live safe, peaceful lives, and it's our job to stand up on their behalf against the predators so that they can live, like I said earlier, safely and peacefully. And we sign on for that. Like I always was honored and considered it a privilege to be asked to stand up against the evildoers in the communities I worked on behalf of the good and innocent people there that either couldn't or wouldn't do that for themselves.
I love that. So, when your career ended and all the noise stopped, what did your mental health look like in the end?
In the end, well, like I was kind of a train wreck at the end. Like I had a bad falling out with my agency, based on the threat situation. And like I said, like a small element of my agency, not the entire agency.
Right.
So I was very discouraged, to put it mildly. But one of the things I learned is that the people that intended harm for me or my family, like if I want forgiveness for my mistakes, if I want a second chance, then I have to extend forgiveness and I have to extend second chances. And so, the people that intended harm for me, like I've forgiven them. Like people make mistakes, and I'm hoping that maybe through those events they learned and are being open and transparent with themselves and being honest and saying, if I had to do this again, I would do it differently. I would do it better. I don't know if that is or is not, their end game, but like I don't walk around holding a grudge. I'm not pissed off. I'm not angry with anybody. I'm not burning for anybody.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, so was there ever a night?
But Chris, let me follow up just on that for a second, because there is a second part to that.
Okay.
Like through forgiveness, I've found for myself, like it's very easy and quick for me to forgive people that have harmed me. But I found that for me and for many people, like we struggle to forgive ourselves. And I still struggle to forgive myself for the mistakes I made. Like I'm haunted by my mistakes. I'm trying to get past them. I struggle to forgive myself.
Yeah. I think we, the whole community, I think they can fall behind you on that one. I think all of us. So was there ever a night that you thought, just screw it, I'm done?
With everything.
Yes, sir.
Well, I reached a point in my life where like I realized that I was the source of the problem for all the drama that had been brought into my life. I didn't have anybody else to blame for it. I desperately wanted someone to point the finger at, but the finger was pointing at me. Um, and I had reached a point where I was like, you know what, like I need to eliminate the source of the problem, which is me. But in that event, in that process, uh, my family, which in essence I had betrayed and abandoned through my career, were the ones that stuck by me, were the ones that ultimately saved me. You know, when I was a kid, my dad told me something that didn't make sense as a young boy. It ultimately made sense uh, later in life. He said it's much better to have 4 quarters in your life than 100 pennies. And like at the time, it didn't make sense. But he was talking about value. When things are hard, those 4 quarters are gonna have more value than the 100 pennies. Um, you're gonna have a few people that stick by you, that stay loyal to you, that don't give up on you, in spite of your mistakes, in spite of your flaws, in spite of the things you've done wrong. They're gonna stand by your side. Um, I always thought that I had thousands of friends out there. When things broke bad for me, the reality is that I had thousands of acquaintances. I had thousands of people I knew. I had a handful of those quarters of those friends that, like, good or bad, right or wrong, were not going to leave my side.
And I've had the same thing. I left the ambulance to go work offshore, and as soon as I did, as you said, all my friends no longer talk to me. I've had 4 or 5 of them, like you said, that would stay in touch and were true friends. But it's amazing the capacity that we have in our jobs that we think people are our friends, and they do just turn out to be acquaintances in the end.
In the end, and I think, we like to throw around the word brotherhood. And I do believe in brotherhood. And I do believe it exists in a lot of different aspects of our life. But brotherhood is only as strong and it's only as meaningful as the people who like embrace it and truly live it. The word itself isn't enough. You have to live the brotherhood and the sisterhood. You have to believe in it. If it's just a word, then it's something that sounds good and we pat ourselves on our back with it. And like I realized, like I had a brotherhood, it was just smaller than I had believed it to be. That's all.
Yes,
The
sir.
brotherhood was still there. It just wasn't as big as I thought it was.
And it's funny you brought that up, because that was actually my next question: was what does brotherhood mean to you after seeing how easily it can be twisted and betrayed?
Well, you know what? When things break bad for you, um, like who are the people that are standing on the sideline watching it go down, and who are the people that are running towards you to rescue you? Like those are your brothers, those are your sisters, the ones that are like, in spite of everything else, are still coming for you. They're still coming to save you. That's the brotherhood and the sisterhood we're talking about. The people that stay on the sidelines or don't want to engage because it's not convenient for them, those are the acquaintances.
Yes, sir. And that you just covered my next question actually as well, is what was one thing you learned about brotherhood, both the real and the fake kind? So you pretty
Well,
much
and you know what? And I'm not disvaluing those acquaintances. Those acquaintances are important.
right.
Like we have people in our life that we're friendly with, and that like those are important people to us. We should continue to embrace those acquaintances, but like in the end, we find out sometimes the hard way. Like there's a handful. There's a handful of people that are coming for you.
Gotcha.
There's a handful of people that are coming to your rescue. Not everybody you thought was coming is coming.
Very true. It diminishes quick. So when all the darkness hit, what stopped you from walking away, or even worse, trying to just end it?
I think my family ultimately, like, for lack of better terms, maybe common sense hit. And I realized after all this, and after all this battle damage I created, who was still there? Who was still standing? And that is my motivation to go on and to try to do better and to try to be better and to try to continue to find ways to make a contribution and have a purpose and have meaning and have something I believe in.
Yes, sir. So will you ever be the same mentally as before when you went in, or does that version of you just stay gone?
You know, I think I can answer not just for myself. I'll answer from my own experiences, but for like our first responder community, the things you see, the things you see, the things you do, the experiences you have. Like, how do you see that day in and day out for years and years at a time over the course of a career and not be changed by it and not be affected by it? Will I ever again, like, be that same person, that innocent, naive person that I was when I came on the job? I don't think I can. But I can be better for it. I can have learned from it. Like there's lessons, life lessons, and there's value in those dark times. But will you ever be the same? You know, you're most people don't go through their life based on their career choices every day making life and death decisions. And the people in our first responder community every day, sometimes multiple times during the course of the day, are making decisions, sometimes split-second decisions, that decide whether they live or die, whether the people around them live or die, whether their partners live or die. Most people don't experience that. And if you haven't, like, how do you explain it to someone?
That's honestly a question I've been trying to figure out myself, is how to explain that to people on the outside of our worlds. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's if you haven't lived it, if you haven't experienced it, um, it's almost impossible to explain that. Like the decisions I made today, um, like someone's life depended on those.
Yep.
Most people aren't confronted with that. Thank goodness they're not.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And so earlier you said fear can be addictive. Do you think adrenaline itself becomes a coping mechanism?
I think it does. I think for me, like I was addicted to the risk. I love the risk of things, and the riskier things got, like it the old risk wasn't challenging enough. I had to escalate it, and I was constantly pushing it up, and I was constantly like inviting more and more danger. And it's an unhealthy addiction, but nonetheless, like I was living it. And what was exciting yesterday wasn't exciting enough today.
Makes sense. So how do you untrain your brain that's been conditioned to expect violence?
Oh, you know what? I don't think that you want to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm not sure that you want to untrain yourself to be prepared for violence. And it doesn't have to just be someone in the first responder community. Any of us, our family members, our moms and dads and grandpas and our wives and husbands and boyfriends and girlfriends and kids can be pumping gas, can be buying a soda at the convenience store, can be standing at the ATM, can be walking into a grocery store, and all of a sudden it's there in front of you. Do we want to untrain ourselves to be prepared for that? Like, I don't think we do. I think we want to stay on point, even when you're off the job. Like, stay on point, be paying attention, because if you're not prepared for it, if you're not, like I said earlier, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually prepared for it, when it hits you, like you're behind the power curve, like, and it's super hard to catch up.
I got you. And that actually brings me to this one right here is, so when all your adrenaline stopped, what emotions came rushing in to replace it?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if regret and shame and humiliation, I don't know if those qualify as emotions.
I think they do.
Uh, but so like as I started reflecting and looking back, like for me, I really don't hold on or remember the successes or the achievements, but I can't forget the mistakes. Um, and that goes back to that what we talked about earlier about like being able to forgive other people, but not being able, or at least not being very good at forgiving ourselves. Um, I struggle to get past the things that I got wrong. I really don't celebrate the achievements. Um, I'm I had achievements. I'm just not super impressed with myself because I know where the flaws were. If I had to do it over again, if I could start over knowing what I know now, I would still do it. I would still do the same job in the same way, but I know where the failures were, and I would fix those.
Hmm.
I think there's people in the world that are content to be average, and average people they serve an important role in our world. Like we need people that are just consistent every day and just show up, do what they're supposed to do, and leave, and aren't outstanding. They aren't excellent, right? Like but those people are important to the functioning of our world. But there's people who strive to be outstanding. There's people who strive to be excellent. They're in pursuit of perfection. And then there's a smaller group of people that want to be elite. They want to be special. But to be elite at anything, whatever it is you're doing, to be elite, you have to be obsessed. And that obsession that takes you to that elite level is a double-edged sword. There's a price to be paid with the obsession that it takes to be elite. And and so it takes you to great heights, but there's pain and there's consequences with it. And usually that obsession, when we're obsessed professionally, typically our families and the people that love us are the ones that pay for it. They pay for our obsession.
Yes, sir. So, what does healing actually look like for you now? Not as a law enforcement officer, but as a human being.
Just like being, I think for me, being personally honest with myself, stop looking for an excuse. I stopped looking for people to blame. I've taken ownership over the things that I'm not happy with of myself. Um, if you want something that you never had before, you have to do things you've never done before to get it. I live by that. I lived by that. Past tense. Um, if you want people to remember your name, you have to give them something they can't forget. And that goes back to that pursuit of being elite and being obsessed. I'm not encouraging that. I'm not sure that it's healthy, but nonetheless, there are people out there. Thank goodness, like for the average people, but thank goodness for the obsessed people that truly want to be elite, but just with the understanding there's a price to pay for that.
Very true. So, you could have just disappeared and left everything, but instead you chose to teach, mentor, and speak. Why come back into the light after everything?
Part of it is not running away from my problems, like hopefully maybe helping other people understand what they're going through. They're not unique. They're not alone. You know, we can sound and project confidence, but internally feel worthless. Um, we can appear on the outside to be healthy and to be sick. Um, we can we can look to be, I don't know what word to use, healthy, I guess, and be miserable. We can be in a crowd of people and be surrounded by people and feel alone. And I guess the point is like if you feel that way, if you feel like you're alone, like you're not. There's a lot of people that have gone through that before you, that love you, that care about you, that want to that want to help you, that want to help you find relief from that. You know, and if like I'm pretty easy to find. If you feel that way, like I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions, but I will help you find the answer and the solution. I know people that can get you there. So don't feel alone, because like for at least a portion of my life, I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was the only person going through that, and that's not true. But like when you're feeling it and when it's internal, it definitely you definitely feel isolated.
And that actually is a good point right here. Is so what's the moment that made you realize you still had a purpose after all the pain?
Again, I keep coming back to my family,
Yes, sir.
and ultimately that's where my focus and my purpose should have been and should have stayed throughout like my professional adventures that I let slip away from me. But I spend every day like being thankful and grateful. And I'm thankful for my problems. And I'm grateful for the hardships that I've had. Because I don't have to look far to find someone who's got it worse. Um, like I can look to my left and look to my right, and regardless of how I might feel about some of the problems in my life, I can see people who would love to trade their problems for my problems and would do it as quick as they could snap their fingers. So, like, I consider myself blessed. I'm thankful and grateful every day. I try to be appreciative of the people in my life.
Yes, sir. So how did faith or even just believing in something bigger help you stay alive when everything fell apart?
That's probably the greatest thing that has come to me through both the good and the bad, but probably more from the bad is that like I'm a control freak, and like I want to control everything, and I want things to go the way that I want them to go when I want them to go there. And every time that I tried to control my life and dictate what was going to happen or what was going to happen next, it didn't turn out very good. But like when I turned my life over to God and said, like every time that like I make my own decisions, they're wrong. I fail. Like I need you to take over. So the the whole Jesus take the wheel thing is what I came to. There was a point in time where I felt like God had lost my phone. Like I felt like God had forgotten me. That wasn't the case. He was always there, but I had to go through some of those hard times to realize He was always there. Um, I think like if you believe in God, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems and have difficult times. It means that you have somewhere, someone to turn to go to help you through.
Very well said. I think we all feel that way at times. Is you know that he did lose our number, or that there is no higher power. But in the end, there always is a higher power that we all need to realize.
That's what when I talked about being thankful and grateful, probably if I had to put it down to one element of my life, is that all those events in my life, they improved my spirituality. Like I always had faith in my life, but I didn't always live my life in a way that reflected that. And so like my spirituality increased, and I became I've gained a greater understanding of the importance of God and Jesus in my life, and that has that's ultimately altered my path. And what I do and what I say, um, I'm hoping, like through transparency and honesty, I'm hoping that I'm honoring God.
That makes sense. That's
And like every day when I wake up, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and I ask God, like, present opportunities for me to promote you, to flatter you, to give you credit. So, like having this discussion with you today is just one of those opportunities that He's put in front of me that hopefully I can say something that someone, over the course of this conversation, someone will hear and say, that made sense to me. That helped me, hopefully,
yes,
right?
sir.
Through that opportunity. And then through that opportunity, like I've honored God.
That's it. Sounds weird saying it this way after you said that, but that's the reason for my podcast. Is I've actually had a few people reach out and tell me that they've heard some things and that actually stuck with them. And uh, I actually had a guy call me recently who wanted to end it, and he's like, "Hey, I listened to the podcast. You made me want to go back to work. You made me want to get back together and start doing what I need to do." And I was like, "Dude, that's all I need." I was like, "I'm not, that's what the point of these conversations are for, is to help show others that they're not alone in these struggles, that they're not alone in the end at all."
If there's a million people that watch your show, and if one person says, you changed my life, I heard something on your show that saved my life, you've honored God.
Yes, sir. So, what role did forgiveness play, not just towards others, but towards yourself?
That's probably my biggest struggle is like I don't have a good answer for that. I'm just not good at forgiving myself. And there's days when I'm better at it than others. And there's days just when like those memories and thoughts of things I got wrong seem to haunt me. Um, and on those days, when I feel like I'm losing, when I feel like the enemy is after me and I'm under attack, those are the days when my faith like serves its strongest purpose because I have somewhere to run and I can say like God, I'm doing my very best to be who you want me to be and to live how you want me to live now. Man, I'm under attack, man. Send me some angels because I need some help today.
Right. So, on that note, what tools or practices actually help you stay grounded whenever your head does start to go to the bad places or the dark places?
Yeah, we just discussed it.
Yes, sir.
I turn to God. Like I asked Jesus, like, man, I'm under attack right now. Right? And like I don't feel like I'm strong enough to get through this. I need you to come to my rescue.
So, what's your message for first responders, cops, and medics burning out but being afraid to speak up?
Well, I think our profession, the first responder profession, we get brainwashed into believing that we have to be invincible. Um, it's the mantra. It's the code that we live by. Um, but we're human and we have weaknesses. And we have bad days and bad things happen. Um, and for people that, like I said earlier, that feel like they're alone or there's no answer, there's no way out. You're not alone. There are answers. There are escapes. And if you're struggling to find that, like I'm easy to find. Like 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 I'm on the internet. Like I have some social media. Reach out to me. I don't have every answer. I don't have every solution, but I know people that do. I know people that can help, like push that boulder up the mountain with you. And 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 if you're ashamed or um, lacking the confidence to go there alone, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. You're worth it.
That's that's powerful right there, and it is very true. Everyone is worth their own lives, their own capabilities. That there's no this world is not better without anybody.
I think the analogy, like there's times when we feel like we're literally trying to push a boulder up a mountain, and that boulder like wants to roll back on us and crush us. Sometimes you just need someone to help you push it.
Yes, sir.
We'll get it there. We'll get it there. It might be more than you can push on your own, but we'll get it there. We'll push it together.
Hell yeah. So, how do we as a culture of first responders stop worshiping toughness and start normalizing the help?
One more time with the question.
So, how do we as a culture of first responders stop worshiping the toughness and start to normalize getting help? Pretty much falls back to, like you said, the mantra of don't get help or you're weak type deal. How do we change that mentality?
I think through maybe, and I don't know if this is the sole answer, but maybe through people who have felt like they were failing, like they couldn't win, who survived it and overcome it, like reach out and expose it and be willing to be honest and transparent, and let others people see that they're not alone, um, and that there is hope. I think what happens sometimes is that we get to a point in our life where we can't even hope to have hope. We feel so desperate. Um, and there is hope out there, and there's help out there.
So, you spent years speaking to first responders and veterans. What do you see as the biggest barrier keeping people from getting help?
I think it's that self-imposed uh, vision that, like, our friends and our peers and our partners, if we show any weakness, will think less of us. Um, and we get brainwashed into that. And that's like, we can't let that happen. We have to fight against that every day, but both for ourselves internally and for the people, our friends and our peers and our partners around us. And have your eyes open. Like 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 sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes you can't see it, but sometimes it's obvious. And when it's obvious to you, when someone's struggling, don't be afraid to ask them, like, man, are you okay? You doing okay? And if you're not, like, let's figure it out. Like, let me help you figure it out. You're not alone.
Yes, sir. So, what can leadership actually do to protect their people's mental health before they have a break?
You know what? I think that has gotten much better than it was when I first came on the job. I think like embracing, the peer support programs, and having people that have gone through struggles and gone through hard times and hard events that survived them and thrived and then continued to achieve, like making them and their stories available to everyone can be inspiring.
Very well said. So, how do you define winning now after everything you've went through?
Oh, how do I define winning? That's a good question. That's like, it's such a big question. Um, like having an opportunity to speak to you, like I consider that a win.
Yes, sir.
Um, Trying to like live my life the right way, the way that I wished that I had led it previously on days that I'd fail. Like those are wins. Um, like getting up in the morning and having a new day and a new start and a chance to fix things I got wrong. That's a win. It's like, sometimes you got to look for them. Sometimes those wins are small. I don't know that there's some big universal solution that says I won. It's, and I'll say this: there's not a night when I lay my head on the pillow or when I'm on my knees where I don't reflect on something that I could have done better that day, something that I said that I shouldn't have said. Um, something that I needed to say that I didn't say, that I needed to do that I didn't do, that I did that I didn't do. But I'm thankful for that. I try to learn from those lessons. And then, you know what? Regardless of how bad things are, the next day the sun's going to come up and we get another try.
Very well said on that as well. So, one last question. So, what is one truth about survival you wish someone had told you before the job took its toll on you?
One truth about survival. Man, that's a tough question. Um, I think we ultimately survive this profession um, through our own personal resiliency. Um, but I think maybe if I had to give you a single answer, is that the understanding is that really, if you can go to work thinking like no one is coming to save me, like we have to learn to save ourselves. Now, very often that's not true. Like we have partners and peers and friends and family around us that is willing to save us. But so many times during the course of the day, like you're in a position where you have to save yourself. And maybe that day, maybe saving yourself is that day where you just ask for help.
I love it. Jay, I can't thank you enough for being here, for your honesty, and for reminding everyone listening that surviving the job means surviving ourselves as well. So, for anyone that wants to learn more about you or any of the services that you provide, how can they connect with you?
I'm easy to find. I have a website. It's jdobyns, Dobyns.com. There's several pages there. There's a contact page. And so I try to be diligent about responding to messages. And I just try to do my best. Like I said, I don't have every answer. I don't have every solution. But I promise you I will try. And I will try my best.
And then, so for everyone listening today, what is the final message you want them to take away from this?
I think for all of us, and I try to live by this, I mentioned it earlier, if we can be thankful and if we can be grateful, that just takes you a long way in life. Be thankful for a new opportunity. Be thankful for the people in our lives. Be grateful for our problems. That there's always people that got it worse. Be thankful and grateful.
Perfectly said. If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.